It started on a quiet, rainy Friday night in downtown Chicago, the kind of night that seeps into your bones and makes you question everything. The office was almost empty. Lights dimmed, the soft hum of the city outside echoing through the tall glass windows. I was still at my desk, lost in spreadsheets and emails I wasn't really reading. My life felt like it was stuck on repeat. I had a good job, a stable life, a wife at home, Rachel. But everything between us had grown cold. We barely spoke anymore. The house was full of noise, the dishwasher, the TV, the sound of our son playing video games upstairs, but it was empty of warmth. I hadn't felt seen in years. And then she walked in. Emily. I hadn't noticed her much before that night. She'd only been with the company for a couple of months, brought in from New York as a brand consultant for a high-stakes project. She was beautiful, but not in the way that screamed for attention. It was the kind of beauty that sneaks up on you, subtle, smart, a little dangerous. Long brown hair, always in a loose bun, simple blouses that hinted at curves she didn't care to flaunt, and eyes that held something more than professionalism. She was the kind of woman who didn't just walk into a room, she made the room shift without even trying. That night, she walked past the empty cubicles and paused when she saw me still working. "You're still here?" she asked, setting her laptop bag down and walking over. Her voice was low, warm, the kind of voice that made you want to answer, even if you didn't want to talk. I shrugged. Deadlines. She smirked, pulled up the chair across from mine, and kicked off her heels like we were already friends. Deadlines or avoiding going home? That question, it hit deeper than I expected. No one had asked me something that honest in a long time. I didn't answer right away, just looked at her, and she looked back like she already knew. When it started, not with a kiss or a flirt, but with a shared silence that felt strangely intimate. We talked for hours about everything. She told me how she moved to Chicago to escape a cheating ex who slept with her best friend. She laughed when she said it, but there was a crack in her voice, the kind you hear only if you're really listening. I told her about Rachel, about how our marriage used to be full of laughter and late-night drives. But somewhere between diapers and bills, we lost whatever made us feel like partners. I confessed things I never planned to say out loud. She didn't judge me. She didn't offer advice. She just listened. At some point, she reached for her coffee and her fingers brushed mine. Just for a second. But it was enough to change everything. Her skin was warm, soft. My pulse quickened. I didn't pull away. Neither did she. The air between us changed, heavier, slower. It wasn't just physical, though. God, the tension was thick with it. It was emotional, real, like two people, recognizing something familiar in each other, even if we didn't want to. I looked at her lips without meaning to. She noticed, but didn't move. Didn't stop me. Just watched me. Like she was waiting to see what I'd do next. But nothing happened, not that night. Eventually, she glanced at the clock, sighed, and said she should go. She stood, stretched, and grabbed her bag. I walked her to the elevator because I wanted to, not because I had to. When the doors opened, she turned to me and said, "Thanks for not pretending tonight." Then she smiled, soft, almost sad, and stepped inside. As the doors closed, she kept her eyes on mine until the last possible second. That elevator ride down felt like the start of something, even if I didn't understand it yet. I stayed in the office a while after that. I stared at the rain sliding down the windows, my heart still racing. I kept thinking about the way she looked at me, not with pity or need, but with something much deeper, something honest. I wasn't stupid. I knew it was dangerous. I was a married man, and she had her own wounds to heal. But something in me woke up that night, something that had been sleeping for a long time. When I got home, Rachel was already asleep on the couch. The TV was playing some crime show she'd probably put on just for background noise. I stood in the doorway, watching her. She looked peaceful, but far away, like someone I used to know. I didn't wake her. I just walked past her and went upstairs. my mind still spinning with everything Emily had said. Lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something real, something I couldn't name yet. I didn't expect to feel this way about her, but maybe that's how it always starts, quietly, honestly, dangerously. Asterisk, it didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like a steady rain that seeps into your skin before you even notice you're wet. After that late night in the office, Emily and I kept finding reasons to be around each other. Meetings that ran long, coffee breaks that turned into hour-long conversations, project updates that could have been emails. But the truth was, we didn't need reasons anymore. We just wanted to be near each other. She made the office feel different, warmer somehow. I started looking forward to work again, but not because of the job. It was because I knew she'd be there. Some mornings, I'd see her walk in with her coffee, hair tied up, eyes half asleep, and I'd catch myself smiling before I even realized it. She had this calm, quiet confidence, like she'd been through hell and didn't need to prove anything to anyone. But underneath all that, there was still something soft in her, a woman who wanted to be seen, held, understood. And I couldn't help but feel drawn to that. We started texting outside of work, mostly about harmless things, music, random thoughts, sarcastic memes, but even that felt like a small thrill. I'd lie in bed next to Rachel, phone in hand, laughing quietly at something Emily sent me, while my wife turned away and fell asleep without saying a word. It was wrong. I knew it, but I couldn't stop. It was like this invisible thread kept pulling me closer to her. Then came the night that changed everything. We had just wrapped a client dinner, a long, boring affair with too much wine and tour, and small talk, and everyone else had left. Emily asked if I could give her a ride home since her Uber was taking forever. I said yes without thinking. It was a quiet drive at first. The city lights flickered through the windshield, the rain just light enough to blur the view. She looked out the window, then turned to me and said softly, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to just start over? Like wipe everything clean and be someone new?" Her voice cracked a little at the end. I didn't answer right away. I was afraid of what I'd say. 'Cause, yes, I thought about that almost every day. I thought about what life might be like if I hadn't gotten married so young. If I hadn't settled into something that looked good on the outside but felt empty on the inside. I pulled into her apartment parking lot and shut off the engine. We sat there for a few seconds in silence, both of us too aware of what was about to happen. Then I turned to her and said, "Yeah, I wonder that all the time." She looked at me, really looked, and I swear something inside me cracked open. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to stop me. But she didn't. Her lips met mine, and in that moment, nothing else existed. It wasn't rushed or messy. It was slow, aching, full of everything we hadn't said but had felt for weeks. Her kiss was soft but desperate, like she was holding on to something she knew she couldn't keep. When we pulled away, her forehead rested against mine, and we both just breathed, trying to understand what we had just done. But I didn't feel guilt in that moment. I felt alive. I hadn't felt like that in years. When I got home later, that night, the guilt hit me like a truck. Rachel was asleep on the couch again, the same show playing on repeat. I stood there, staring at her, trying to remember when we had last touched each other like that, when we had last looked at each other with real desire. I couldn't, and that scared me. I wanted to hate myself, but part of me didn't. Part of me felt like I had just woken up from a long, quiet sleep. I took a shower to wash away the scent of Emily's perfume, but it clung to me anyway. I could still feel her lips on mine, her hands on my chest, the way she said my name like it meant something. I lay in bed that night beside Rachel, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. I kept seeing Emily's face, the way her eyes searched mine like she was asking for permission to fall. And I knew right then we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, but it wasn't just about lust. That was the part that scared me most. I had felt attraction before, but this This was deeper. Emily made me feel seen. She listened to me in ways Rachel hadn't in years. She touched me like I still mattered, like I was still a man worth loving. I wasn't just escaping, I was falling, slowly, uncontrollably, and I didn't know where it would end. All I knew was that I couldn't stay away. Not anymore. Not. Now, I didn't expect to feel this way about her, but I did. Ha! And there was no going back. The weeks after that night felt like walking on a tightrope, thrilling and terrifying, one wrong step away from everything falling apart. Emily and I kept seeing each other more than we should have. It wasn't just stolen kisses and secret moments anymore. It was real talks, deep talks. The kind where you sit on the couch with a glass of wine and hours go by like minutes. She told me about her childhood, about the weight of always being the one who had to keep it together. I told her things I hadn't even admitted to myself, like how sometimes I'd sit in my car outside the house just so I didn't have to walk in and pretend everything was okay. We became each other's escape, but it started to feel like more than that, and that's when things got complicated. Because Emily, for all her strength and independence, didn't want to be anyone's second choice. One night after we made love in her apartment, slow, tender, like we were trying to memorize every inch of each other, she sat up in bed, her bare shoulders glowing in the soft light, and asked me something that made my chest tighten. "Where does this go, Tyler? Am I just helping you forget, or are you trying to remember who you are with me?" I couldn't answer right away. I looked at her, at the pain hiding behind her question, and I hated that I'd put it there. The truth was, I didn't know. I was still married, still playing the role of the decent husband at home, pretending things weren't broken beyond repair. I told myself I was staying for my son, for the life we built. But the truth? I was scared. Scared of starting over at my age, scared of the judgment. Scared of what divorce would do to my already distant relationship with Rachel. So I gave Emily the safest answer I could come up with. I just need more time. She nodded slowly, but I saw her shut down a little. She leaned away when she used to lean in. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. That night, as I left her apartment, she didn't kiss me goodbye. She just said, "Drive safe," and closed the door before I could say anything else. I felt hollow driving home. The city lights blurred through the windshield. And all I could think about was how I was hurting two women in two very different ways. At home, Rachel barely looked up from her phone. We made small talk about dinner, bills, nothing real. We slept back to back again, the space between us louder than any fight we'd ever had. I wanted to say something, anything to fix it, but the truth is, I didn't even know what we were fixing anymore. Love, comfort, habit. The next few days, Emily grew distant. She still replied to my texts, but they were short, polite. No heart emojis, no late-night calls. When I asked to see her, she said she was busy. I knew what that meant. Not that she didn't care, but that she was trying to protect herself. She was trying to walk away before I left her hanging any longer. And I didn't blame her. One afternoon, I showed up at her place unannounced. She looked surprised, maybe even a little mad, but she let me in. I told her I missed her, that I didn't sleep well without her, that every day without her felt heavier. She listened quietly, arms crossed, like she was waiting for the part that mattered. Then she said, "Tyler, you're married. I'm not judging you, but I can't be in love with a man who goes home to someone else every night. I deserve to be more than a secret." That hit me hard. Because she was right. She deserved the world. She deserved someone who could show up for her completely, not just in the dark, not just when it was easy. I wanted to promise her I'd fix everything. But promises without action are just pretty lies. So I stood there, silent, hurting, because I knew I might lose her. She walked me to the door like she was trying to hold herself together. Her hand lingered on the knob. She looked up at me with eyes full of heartbreak and hope, and whispered, "If you ever figure out what you really want, you know where to find me." Then she closed the door. not in anger, not in hate, but in love, the kind that knows when to let go. I walked back to my car feeling like the world had shifted. Emily wasn't just someone I slept with. She wasn't just a distraction from a broken marriage. She was the person who made me feel again, fully, deeply. And losing her felt like losing a part of myself I didn't know I needed. But maybe I had to feel that pain. Maybe I had to sit in the silence of her absence to understand what she really meant to me. Because that night, lying in bed next to Rachel, who didn't even ask where I'd been, I realized something with a clarity that hit me like a wave. I was in love with Emily, and I had been for a while. But love, the real kind, doesn't live in secrets. It lives in truth. And I knew then I couldn't keep living to lives forever. One way or another, something had to break. Asterisk, the days after Emily shut the door on me felt like a slow kind of heartbreak. It's a kind that doesn't scream it, just stays quiet and heavy and follows you everywhere. I tried to go on like nothing had changed, waking up beside Rachel, dropping our son off at school, heading into work with my fake smile and small talk. But inside, I was unraveling. Everything reminded me of Emily, the smell of cinnamon from the bakery near her apartment, the old R&B songs she loved, even the way the sunlight hit my office window in the late afternoon. And I kept thinking about what she said. I deserved to be more than a secret. She did. God, she really did. And I hated myself for making her feel like she was something temporary. The truth was, she had become everything. I couldn't focus at work. I'd scroll through our old texts at night, reading our inside jokes, the late-night confessions, the emojis she used when she missed me. I thought about calling her 100 times, but I knew words weren't enough anymore. She didn't want apologies. She wanted me to choose, and I hadn't. Because I was still hiding behind fear, still trying to keep everyone happy, still too scared to break something that already felt broken. But something had shifted in me. I didn't just miss her. I needed her. And not just for the way she touched me or made me feel alive, but for the way she saw me. Truly saw me in a way Rachel hadn't in years. One evening, I came home and found Rachel in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. It was rare for us to be in the same room without a TV on. For a moment, I almost walked past her, like I always did, but something stopped me. I sat down at the kitchen table and just looked at her. She looked tired, worn down, like a woman who'd given everything to a life that no longer gave back. I cleared my throat and said quietly, "Are you happy?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What?" I repeated it. "Are you happy with me?" "With this?" She didn't answer right away. She just stared into her wine glass like maybe it held the answer. And then she said something that gutted me. "I think we've both been pretending for a long time." And just like that, the wall we'd built between us cracked. We talked for hours that night. Honest, raw, painful truths. She admitted she'd been lonely for years, that she knew something was missing but didn't want to break up our family. I confessed about Emily. Not every detail, but enough. Enough for her to understand it wasn't just a one-night mistake. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just nodded, like she had known all along but needed me to say it out loud. "I want you to be happy," she said, her voice steady, but distant. "But I can't keep living like this. We both deserve more than silence." We agreed to separate for real this time. It was quiet, almost too calm, but I think we both knew it was time. There was sadness, of course, kinda. Grief that settles deep in your chest. We had built a life together, years of memories, a child, a home. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being us. And no amount of pretending could fix that. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, feeling both relief and regret. I had broken something permanent, and even though it was the right thing, still hurt like hell. The next morning, I stood outside Emily's apartment with my heart in my throat. I didn't call first, I didn't text, needed her to see that I meant it, that I was ready to stop hiding. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, unsure. She was wearing an oversized sweater, no makeup, hair tied back and still. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I stepped inside, closed the door, and took her hands in mine. "I'm not here to ask for more time," I said. "I ended things with Rachel. Not because of you, but because I finally got honest with myself, but I'm standing here now because I love you. And I don't want to go another day pretending I don't." See, didn't say anything right away. Her eyes filled with tears, and I felt her hands tremble in mine. Then, finally, she pulled me into her arms and whispered against my chest, "I was afraid you'd never come back." I held her tighter than I ever had. That moment wasn't perfect. There was still pain, still fear, but it was real. It was two broken people trying to build something new from the pieces. We spent the rest of the day wrapped in each other, not just physically, but emotionally. We talked about everything: our fears, our pasts, the messy future we didn't have a roadmap for. But it didn't matter, because for the first time we were finally free to love each other in the open. No lies, no hiding, just us. It wasn't the end of the story, not even close, but it was the beginning of something honest. And after everything we'd been through, that felt like a kind of miracle. At first, it felt like a dream. Being with Emily in the open, no more hiding, no more guilt clawing at my chest, just her and me, starting over. I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Clean slate. The nights were quiet, but they weren't lonely anymore. Emily would stay over most weekends, and when she wasn't there, we'd talk late into the night, like we used to. Real conversations about work, love, fear, the kind of stuff that strips you bare and makes you feel human again. We'd fall asleep with the TV still playing, or wake up tangled in each other's arms, laughing about nothing. It was the kind of intimacy I'd forgotten existed, the kind you can't fake. But real love isn't always easy. It's raw, uncomfortable, messy. And that's exactly what started to show. As the months went on, the pressure began to creep in. Not from Emily, not at first, but from the world around us. My divorce was still fresh. My son was confused, and Rachel, while respectful and civil, made it clear that boundaries needed to be set. I agreed, of course, but that didn't make it easier. Co-parenting while falling in love with someone new was like trying to walk two separate paths with only one pair of shoes. And Emily, patient as she was, had her own worries too. She tried to hide it. But I could feel it every time I had to cancel a dinner because of something with my son, every time I talked to Rachel on the phone, and she heard it in the other room. She never said it out loud, but I saw the fear in her eyes. That deep, quiet fear of being second again. One night, while we were cooking dinner in her apartment, music playing low, wine half finished, she turned to me suddenly and asked, "Do you ever feel like you left one life just to start another you're not ready for?" The question hit hard, because I had asked myself that many times. Was I ready? Had I truly let go of the old me? Or was I just dragging the pieces along with me? I didn't lie to her. I said, "Yeah, I think about that sometimes. But I also know I don't regret choosing you." She gave me a soft smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. And that's when I started to worry, because love needs more than words to survive. It needs action. And lately, I hadn't been showing up the way she needed. The next few weeks, things got tense. We were still in love, still passionate, but it felt like walking on ice. She grew quieter, more distant. I'd wake up and find her already dressed, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone with that faraway look. I asked if she was okay, and she always said she was, but I knew better. One Friday night, I surprised her with dinner at her favorite Italian place, hoping to bring the spark back. We talked, we laughed, we kissed in the parking lot like teenagers. For a moment, it felt like we were okay again. But later, after we made love and were lying in bed, she whispered, "There's something I haven't told you." My heart paused. I turned to her, trying to stay calm. She hesitated, then said, "A few weeks ago, I had coffee with someone. His name's Jack. We used to date before you. It was just one time. Nothing happened. But I needed to see what it felt like to be wanted without all the weight. It was like the air left the room. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe. Betrayal doesn't always come with lies or affairs. Sometimes it comes with truths you didn't see coming, ones that make you question everything. She reached for me, her voice shaky. "I didn't cheat, I swear. I felt alone, and I didn't know how to tell you." And I believed her, but it still hurt. Because love, when it's real, makes you vulnerable. You open every part of yourself and trust that the other person won't walk away or look for something easier. I sat up in bed and looked at her, really looked at her. "Do you still love me?" I asked. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, but I need to know you're really here. Not just physically, emotionally, completely." And she was right. I'd been halfway in, even when I thought I was giving her my all. Part of me was still tangled in guilt, in old routines, in the fear of not knowing what came next. I reached for her hand, and this time I didn't let go. "I'm here," I said. "I'm scared, but I'm here. If you'll let me, I'll prove it." That night didn't fix everything. Love doesn't work like that. It takes time, trust, showing up day after day. But it was a turning point. The moment we stopped pretending everything was okay and started facing the hard parts together. Love is easy when it's new. But staying in love, fighting for it, choosing it every day, that's what makes it real. And that night, in the quiet of her bedroom, with our hearts on the line, we chose each other. Again, months passed, and slowly everything started to feel more real, not perfect. Not easy, but real. Emily and I had made it through the storm, and now we were learning how to build a life together piece by piece. No more hiding, no more late-night guilt or unspoken fears. Just two people carrying their past, but not letting it define them. I spent more time with my son, tried to be the kind of father he could trust and talk to. Rachel and I kept things respectful, cold sometimes, sure, but we kept the focus on our son, not the wreckage we left behind. As for Emily and me, we moved in together that spring. Her place always felt more like home than anywhere else, and after all we'd been through, we were tired of saying goodbye at night. I remember the first morning we woke up in the same bed without a clock ticking down to goodbye. She was wearing one of my t-shirts, hair messy, half asleep, and she reached out to pull me closer. "This," she whispered, "feels right." And it did. More than anything ever had. We still had our struggles. Love doesn't erase the hard stuff. It just gives you someone to face it with. There were fights, misunderstandings, long days where stress pulled us into separate corners of the room. Sometimes I'd get caught in my own head, worrying about bills, parenting, guilt that still bubbled up when I least expected it. Emily had her own battles, trust issues, insecurities, moments when she wondered if loving me meant always competing with my past. But we talked. We really talked. No more silent treatments or walking on eggshells. And that changed everything. I remember one night we sat on the floor of our tiny living room with a bottle of wine, candles flickering around us, and just shared everything, our biggest regrets, our secret hopes, the things that still scared us. She cried when she talked about her fear of never being enough. I cried when I admitted how much I hated the man I had become before I met her. And then, as if we both knew the only way forward was through, we held each other and let the silence say what words couldn't. "I'm not going anywhere, but life, as it always does, had one more twist to throw at us." Emily got a job offer in New York, a huge step up from what she was doing. Her dream role, the kind of thing she'd worked her whole life for. When she told me, I was proud, genuinely. Her eyes lit up like I hadn't seen in a long time. But under the pride, there was panic. We were finally settling into something good, something steady, and suddenly it felt like the ground was shifting. Again, what do we do? She asked me one night, lying in bed with her head on my chest. Do I stay for us? Or do I go and risk losing what we have? And there it was, again another choice. Another moment that could change everything. I thought about asking her to stay. God, I wanted to. But I looked at her, this woman who had given me her heart, her body, her trust stand. I realized love isn't about holding someone back. It's about pushing them forward, even if it scares you. So I kissed her forehead and said, you go. You chase it, I'll be here. We'll figure it out. She cried. I did too. It was one of the hardest nights we'd ever shared. Because love, real love, sometimes means letting go just enough for the other person to fly. She moved. 2 weeks later. We packed her things together and I drove her to the airport. It wasn't goodbye. We'll see you soon. We promised to visit, to call, to not let the distance break what we built. The first few weeks were rough. I missed her smell on the pillow, the way she hummed when she cooked, her legs wrapped around mine in the middle of the night. We fought more than usual, not out of anger, but out of fear. Long distance isn't easy when you've already been through so much. But we held on. 6 months later, I flew out to see her. She met me at the airport, and when I saw her, I felt it all over again like the first time. We spent the weekend in her small Brooklyn apartment, walking through the city, holding hands like teenagers, stealing kisses in the cold. And one night, standing on the balcony overlooking the skyline, I pulled out a small box I'd been carrying in my pocket for weeks. She froze when she saw it. I don't care where you live, I said. I don't care about the past, the mistakes, the pain. All I care about is waking up every day knowing I get to love you. Will you marry me? She didn't speak. She just nodded through tears, and when she said yes, I felt like the world stopped turning for a second. Our story wasn't perfect. It had betrayal, heartbreak, mistakes, but it was ours. Raw, messy, beautiful. Because sometimes the most unexpected, love born in late nights and shared secrets turns out to be the one that changes everything. And in the end, that's all I ever needed. Her. Just her.